This is Shelley Craft coming to you live on SNN Live. We're coming from the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium 2017 here in Vancouver. I have with me Joe Mazumdar from Exploration Insights, a speaker, newsletter writer, and a contributing writer to the MicroCap Review magazine. Joe, welcome back to SNN Live.
Thank you very much, Shelley. Thanks for having me.
It's good to have you. So let's get started with an overview of what you do with Brent at Exploration Insights.
Well, at Exploration Insights, basically we look at the junior mining sector and look for opportunities for our subscribers to make money in the sector. And as the sector evolves and changes, we look at different plays. Right now, we're more into exploration than we are into producers, let's just say.
Now, not all investors follow that strategy. There's value investors may be looking strictly for, production and revenue streams, etc. What is it that makes you look at the exploration companies at this particular time?
Well, if we stay with gold for a second, gold, has been flat, it's been sideways, but our thesis on the gold side isn't the demand side, it's more on the supply side. So if we look at big major gold producers, their reserves are declining. They've lowered, one of the reasons is because they lowered the reserve prices, and so there's less things that they have that make sense at the current gold price, which $1,200, $1,250 is what they use. I know Barrick is using, I think, $1,000 gold price in the next year or so, and so they have to find more assets that make sense at that lower gold price, and they're not spending enough money on grassroots exploration to find these assets. And so we're keying in on the companies that could do it on their behalf, and those are the ones we think that they have to joint venture with, that they have to do an earn-in with, or have to somehow be associated with, because right now the majors do not have the capacity and do not have the strategy for long-term grassroots exploration. They don't have that commitment.
Well, many of those larger companies have dismissed their entire exploration department, and some of them are being brought on to the smaller juniors. Am I right?
Absolutely. And so what we find sometimes, not sometimes, but if we pick the right company with the right management team, what we can see is that they know more than the majors do about where they're exploring, what they're exploring for, because they've got the relevant experience, and the majors have basically cut those people out, as you say.
So what else is happening outside of gold? Because I think that there are some base metals that are being really exciting to some investors.
Yes, when we put out our letter, we put out a letter in January saying what we think the upcoming year, and then we basically mold our portfolio towards that thesis. And our thesis was on gold, was on the exploration side. And for copper and zinc are two other commodities we like, but that's as much supply-driven in terms of quality assets as demand-driven, that we see issues with not having enough copper or zinc into the future, and not enough people have done exploration to find assets that are worthy of bringing into development, so on. Copper and zinc are definitely two other commodities that we're focused in on.
And what about nickel and, and graphite, for instance?
We don't follow a lot of the markets that we don't really understand very well, and graphite would be one of them. On the nickel side, I don't see that kind of issue with the issues of inventory and the lack of supply as I do in zinc, and potentially into the future with copper with the nickel market.
What about cobalt?
Cobalt, yeah, that's an interesting one, and we've heard that, and that's another battery-operated commodity that runs up and runs down, and I know that a lot of the cobalt is in the DRC, in the Democratic Republic of the Congo, so people put on the geopolitical risk of the issues with the DRC. But if people really want cobalt, they'll get it from wherever, and we've seen that with oil. When oil was really up, you saw the oil coming out of places that it shouldn't have been, whether it was from Iran or Iraq, places like that. So if cobalt comes up, these places will find an outlet.
So what's your feeling about the breadth of the market?
Well, what we're seeing, I think, is that, we talk to companies and they're saying, hey, I can put out news and the market doesn't care. But then we see what we think is a big positive is we see exploration plays that drill a really good hole, and the market basically congratulates them, and they're up 100%. Or they make a very good. The market's aware of it. They're watching it, so that, in terms of our thesis, works very well, because if they do drill it, if they do add that value on the drill bit, they'll get rewarded. It's not as if it'll be just fall on deaf ears.
So what's the difference between putting out press releases that have no effect on the stock and then putting out, is it that it's drill results that matter and not anything around that?
Well, it seems like especially in the microcap area, when you're drilling you're a company with a market cap of 15 to 20 million, and then you've got a program, you've just raised money, and what we've seen is that there has been financing, not a lot, but some specific companies have gotten funded and other companies have not. So for me, that's not a bad thing. Like we've seen when exploration money has been very hot and there's been a lot of money being spent, it hasn't been very effective. And now what we're seeing is the people who should get the money are getting the money, which is good, I think, in terms of the cleansing of the industry, an enema, if you will. And that's very good for the industry. And going forward, those projects that make sense are the ones that should get funded. And when they put a program together and they drill it and they get that result that they're talking about, their market cap goes from 20 to 50. That's what we're looking for.
When you say you like something, what does that mean?
Well, when we like something, we might like something that we've missed. So we said, hey, they just put out this result. The market has rewarded them with a 50% increase. And we say, well, we missed it. But if it comes back and we like the area, we like the geology, we like the team, we'll buy back. And we'll tell our subscribers that. We're not buying now. We're not going to chase it, but we'll come back. And other times, we like it because we own it. Because we do have skin in the game, and we did take that punt, and we're hoping to win with this one. But we don't. There's a lot of stories out there. We haven't hit all of them at the right time with that drill hole. But if we do like stories that we don't own, and we feel that they could progress, and we like the team, but we just missed them.
So now, what do you see? In looking a little bit ahead, finish out 2018, 2019. What do you see?
Well, getting back to, if we're talking commodities, gold will always be there, but it's how you play the market. Like, we're sort of a little bit, we're not punters on what the gold price is going to be. You won't hear us talking about what the Fed's going to say every day or another tweet from, some president. We're not going to do that. What we like to do is say, okay, here's something we can hang our hat on, which is the supply side issue. Like, people will look at, why is this big company doing a joint venture with this little company? It's because this big company does not have any exploration, and they like this asset, they like the jurisdiction, and that's what we want to associate ourselves with, because our ultimate for these exploration places, we don't want them to develop it, we don't want them to operate it, we want them to do what they're good at, which is explore.
Very good point, because without exploration, these guys can't replenish what they've been taking out of the ground all this time.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Joe, let's get your website out there for our investor audience, if you would.
Sure, it's explorationinsights.com, and so your listeners know that there's free articles as well from our rants. You could check out the Fatal Flaws rant that we did, as well as something we did on major producers and what we see going forward from them. That was put out in January, February.
Ladies and gentlemen, Joe Mazumdar, Exploration Insights, a speaker at this conference, a newsletter writer, and a contributing writer to the MicroCap Review magazine. We are at the Sprott Natural Resource Symposium 2017 here in Vancouver. I'm Shelley Kraft. This is SNN Live. Thank you so much for coming on, Joe.
Cheers. Thank you, Shelley.
Good to see you again.
No worries, man.